Jennifer. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Very, very nice. Very, very well.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin. I'm going to ask you first to rise, and we'll have a moment of silence. I ask that you keep on your hearts the men and women who serve us all across the nation, all across the world, and our nation, protect us home and abroad, and then we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm Diane Douglas. I have the honor and privilege of serving you as your Superintendent of Public Instruction, and I thank you all for that. I'm kicking off what we're calling our listening tour. And up here on the podium with me is your Senator, Kelly Ward, and Dr. Johnson, who is my Deputy Superintendent for the program side of the Department of Education. I'll let you have a few moments to welcome your...
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm Senator Dr. Kelly Ward. I'm glad to be here. I'm so happy to represent you. I'm the chair of education in the Senate this year, so I've heard from people about educational issues, but I am so glad and so thankful that Superintendent Douglas has made time to listen to the people across the whole state, not just in the great state of Maricopa, but across the whole state, and has taken time to kick it off right here in Legislative District 5 here in Kingman. So I'm happy that you all are here. I'm happy that you're here, and I think that we're going to get things accomplished. I think that we are going to take time to make education great here in Arizona, and we are going to do what everybody in this whole state, whether it's a parent, a community member, a student, the department, administrators, what we all want to do, which is keep those students and their student success right here in front of us as our goal in everything that we do. And I know that we are going to be able to achieve that with your help. Thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to hearing from you tonight.
Good evening. I would just add my welcome and thanks for your involvement and your interest. I'm a native Arizonan and a product of Arizona education, proud to serve in the department, anxious to learn from you tonight. And I know that we share a passion for kids and a shared commitment for their success and prosperity as Arizona moves into the subsequent decades. So thank you again for being here, and let's get started with great words.
I'd like to introduce to you your Superintendent of Mojave County, Michael File. I'm sure you're all very well aware, and he has a few comments for you, and we promise we'll keep all this brief.
I just want to say thank you to all for coming tonight. There's water provided in the back for anyone who needs water through WAVE, our JTED district. Betsy Parker, the superintendent, is here, and I want to thank her for that. And I also just want to ask, one of the things that we have to do in this building, it's your building, taxpayers, keeping it clean, and I just ask that those of you with the water bottles, when you do leave, if you could just take them. The papers here we'll take care of. Those will be collected and reused, but water bottles, those type of things, and there's a recycle canister out in the lobby there that you can toss them in when you're leaving. So look forward to a great night of communicating your ideas. I sure hear a lot of those ideas from you, so now it's great to have the opportunity for you to share them with the panel and the folks from Phoenix. So have a great night.
Superintendent, thank you for all you did to help arrange this facility, and you're more than welcome to join us up here if you'd like. I'd like to, are there any school board members in the audience tonight? If you would, please stand up and let the community see you. Take a bow. Thank you for your service. Any city council members, please stand up and take a bow. If there are any other elected officials, please stand up, and we know how very hard you work on all of our parts. And thank you all for that service. I just very briefly want to go over a few points. I want to tell you first what I can't do as your superintendent of public instruction. I can't change the standards. But what I can do alone, but I personally can't as your superintendent, but what I can do is conduct the public hearings that were never heard when our education system was changed so very radically. And from that, what I can do is go to the legislature, go to the governor, go to the State Board of Ed, and bring your voices to them so that you can be heard and you can be brought at the table. This is not a political meeting, not about past elections, current elections, or future elections. This is about holding these public hearings so your voice can be heard. This is actually going to be, well, first let me back up for 1 second. This is going to be about anything that's on your minds about K-12 education. So it may be funding, it may be the standards, it may be testing, it may be, you may even want to tell us about the schedule at your school. That's fine. You're welcome to bring whatever your comments are, and we are glad to hear them. This is going to be a two-part tour. Today, it's going to be about fact-finding and letting you come to us, tell us what you hear, what your concerns are. You can even tell us some really good things that are happening if you'd like to. We want to hear the good stuff, too. What we'll do is we'll take all those comments back to the Department of Ed, and we'll sort them out, and we'll look. Some may be standards, some may be curriculum, some may be whatever they are. And some may take legislative action, some may need the state board to take action, but we'll make recommendations based on that. And then we're going to be back here around August or September, and we're going to give you the report on our findings, let you know, and then we're going to have a very public dialogue about it. Tonight's really not going to be a dialogue. It's going to be kind of like the public comment section at your board meeting. We're going to listen to you. We're not going to prejudge anything. We're not going to try to debate you or say you don't understand or whatever. We just want to hear what your comments are, and then we promise we'll work very diligently with them over the next few months, and then we will come back and let you know. Just a few guidelines, and we're going to have guidelines up on the wherever the screens are. Just so that you understand, we ask that you speak briefly. But another difference is, and I think you hear this in city council meetings, you hear it at school board meetings, they say if someone's already made your point, then don't come up and make your point. We want you to come up. You don't have to make the same point again, but please say, I agree or I disagree. We want to know if one person feels that way, 10 people feel that way, or 100 people feel that way. So it is important that you add your weight to that size. Keep your comments concise. Questions from us at this point will be deemed rhetorical because we're going to go out and find the right answers and then come back and tell you. We're not going to predetermine any answers here tonight. We will have, this is going to be live streamed. It will be up on YouTube so you can share it with people who cannot be here tonight. And we will also, we have a bunch of ways, we have email addresses, we'll put up Twitter accounts. There's going to be lots of other ways on the screen that you can give input and even additional comments. I know when I go home from a meeting, I always go, oh, I wish I'd thought about that while we were there. Well, if you think about it on your way home or you think about it tomorrow morning, we want to make sure to hear about it. So with that, I can't think of anything else in the ground rules I needed to go over. Oh, there will be cards, so if you want to speak this evening, you'll just fill out a little card with your name on it and hand it to one of our staff members, and you're welcome to come up on the podium. So who would like to kick it off? And Sally, I'm going to hand you this one. We have microphones up here, but I'm not sure why, so. We may just, if we ask a question, it will be to clarify, to make sure that we understand what you're trying to say.
Also, just FYI, if you guys see me on my phone, I'm taking notes, not playing solitaire, because I can't carry a notebook right now with my crutches. So you see me, I'm going to take notes. I'm doing it the old-fashioned way.
Do you have your name?
No, I don't have a pen.
We've all integrated technology up here.
Okay, we have our first speaker. I also have another card from Tom, whose last name I'm going to butcher even though I've practiced. Tom, if you want to come on up, and then there's some more I'm going to collect. So who do we have speaking first?
Hello, my name is Michael Kearns. I'm president of Mojave Community College.
We need to use the mic.
Hi, my name is Mike Kearns. I'm president of Mojave Community College. Madam Superintendent, we appreciate you coming here. Senator Ward, thank you very much for arranging this. We feel very privileged that this is the first stop of your listening tour, and I'm sure you're going to have some great insight from our citizens here in the county.
And we appreciate your patience because you're also our guinea pigs. So thank you all for that.
I have a couple of viewpoints I'd like to express and want to know from your perspective how your role as the leader of public instruction will set policy and help the others in the elected positions in the state see the point of view that the citizens have about some very critical issues. And the first point I wanted to make is about the current GED testing process. There's been a major change this year starting in January with the way the test is delivered, and now it's a computerized test and it's much more expensive than it used to be. And the success rates of the students taking that test has dropped off dramatically. So the impact to our workforce as well as to our college enrollment is being affected because a successful GED test is necessary for students to be eligible for financial aid. When the test becomes more difficult or more challenging to either take in the online environment through a computer, or because they don't have the money to pay for a higher test fee, we are going to see less students eligible for the workforce and eligible for college because they can't afford it and they won't be eligible for financial aid. So we need to understand, is the State Board of Education and your office going to take any type of a leadership role in trying to adjust or make it a little bit more friendly for the applicants taking those tests? And a second comment I'd like to make is that our college enjoys a very, very robust dual enrollment program with the local school districts and with the local JTED. And our JTED is really only 6 years old, and we have some unbelievable programs that have been put into place, and we are graduating at our graduation ceremony every year, the college graduation ceremony, associate degree high school students before they even go to their own high school graduation. And the point I'd like to make is that the funding for JTED as well as the K-12 system continues to be eroded away, and as we start to look at the future of our high school graduates and our college entry students, it is going to affect the pipeline for not only for college but for the workforce if we continue to take money away that otherwise would be preparing students younger to go to college and to go into the workforce, and it will actually decrease the cost of education, of educating those particular individual students, because they will be taking college credit at a time while they're in high school. It will shorten the time span and lessen the expensive. And we need to have a leadership role from the office that you represent with our legislature and the governor's office to try to demonstrate that workforce readiness is part of the whole process of dual enrollment and JTED, and the community colleges and the universities benefit greatly by a strong system of K-12 and JTED education. Thank you for your time. I'll get you my card in a second.
I have Tom Duranzo, who is also with WAVE and the JTED Governing Board. And following Tom, the next speaker will be Betsy Parker. Betsy, if you want to come on up.
Sally, if you call a name out in advance, maybe they can come down and sit, kind of be on deck, since it is baseball season.
Okay, so we do have Tom Duranzo, who is at the microphone. Betsy Parker would be the next speaker, and then Dwayne Nelson after Betsy. If you want to come toward the front so you're ready to go.
Thank you for going on your statewide listening program. I am Tom Duranzo, citizen of Mojave County. I have a statement, and I'm speaking as a private citizen. I am a member of the Western Arizona Vocational Education District, the WAVE JTED Governing Board. I'm also a Mojave County Director for the Arizona School Board Association. All of us are responsible for the future of Arizona. The investment this state makes in high-quality public education will resonate for years to come. Investment in public education equals economic development success. Businesses locate and demand high-quality, well-trained employees for their success. Your doctor, nurse, CNA, physical therapist, police officer, auto technician, information technology expert, executive chef, and even cosmetologist must be high quality and well trained to meet national and state and international standards. None of us wants a low bid, low quality heart surgeon, auto technician, or ASU basketball coach. The recent state budget passed under extreme time pressure and prepared in private does not invest adequately in the state's future to achieve high quality student success for every student in Arizona. You will not find one school board or superintendent in Mojave County who thinks this budget adequately invests in our students. The citizens of Mojave County approved a joint technology district for Mojave County and Parker in La Paz County in 2008 to enhance career and technical education programs for all our high school students. In our district schools, charters, and even homeschoolers can participate in the JTED. Since 2009, this district has never been funded as the Enabling Act says we should be. Yet our students have achieved great success in career and technical programs. Students from Kingman High School, Lake Havasu High School, Mojave, River Valley, and Parker High Schools have won state and national competitions in career and technical fields. Our WAVE JTED and our partner districts deliver these classes in satellite program method, the most cost-effective method using existing education infrastructure, as Dr. Kern said, with our high schools and our community college infrastructure. WAVE JTED just finished our first central campus and our only central campus, the culinary facility in Lake Havasu City that I hope you'll certainly see when you go down to Lake Havasu City. We're very proud of it. However, we will not be able to continue our programs with large cuts to our statewide JTED districts. $30 million in 2011 when freshmen were not allowed to be counted in the state equalization. A $30 million cut is approved in the 2016 state budget. Award-winning high-quality programs should not have death by 1,000 cuts year after year. Voters approved every one of the 14 JTED districts in this state, including the just-born Yuma JTED. Their local tax dollars are supporting their end of the deal. We would say the state is not fulfilling their end of the deal. This state needs to invest in a high-quality public education, from universities to community colleges to K-12 districts and to JTED districts. Our state's economic future depends on that. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Thank you. Betsy Parker is next.
One comment, I think that the U of A may have a disagreement with you about the ASU coach, but besides that, you're probably right.
All right, Betsy Parker is next.
Good evening again. I would too like to thank you for being here, and you asked us to share good news. So I am going to begin with some good news. I appreciate Mr. Duranzo's comments about our joint technical education district, and I appreciate him listing the schools. From those schools, we are very proud to be sending 62 students to national competition. That means they won a gold medal and qualified to go to 3 different states: Chicago, Washington, D.C., and California. I would like to reiterate the point that Tom made about we are doing that already with 25% less of our budget, because in 2011 we lost the ability to count our freshmen. If we in fact lose further ability and funding of 7.5% on each side of the satellite partner and the JTED, that will be a very big cut for us, because we would also revert back to the 91% funding, resulting in a 49% overall funding to JTEDs. And that would be just short of catastrophic for many of the rural JTEDs. So I want to encourage you to meet with us as JTED superintendents, find out what it takes to run our satellite programs, to have these successful students, because Mojave County is a very big county, and we serve La Paz also. And for the first time ever, little old Parker High School with under 500 students has a national winner that will be going to Washington, D.C. And that's a really big feather in their cap. And so we are very proud of the programs, as Tom said, but right now we're working with 25% less than we had, and we hope to not be working with any more less in the future. So please consider joining us at a JTED superintendent meeting in the near future.
Thank you very much. Dwayne Nelson is next. And after Dwayne, we have Sue Ellen Stewart.
One each to the three ladies. Hi, I'm Dwayne Nelson from Kingman, and I am the state president for ASRA, All Arizona School Retirees Association, and I gave you my flyer there. We're known at the Capitol for our red shirts. We are known to camp out there during the session. And I was told that I could ask a question, so I hope I can, and I can get an answer. Arizona is facing a serious problem with lack of funding for education and teacher salaries. What is your office doing to keep teachers in their classrooms and to prevent them from leaving for positions with more money?
We will be treating all questions rhetorically, as the superintendent said. We will answer those on an individual basis following the meetings.
Okay. Our group has our volunteer programs, hundreds of thousands of hours around the state with our local clubs. And I know it's a great monetary amount for the schools, all other groups. And I had been in Kelly's office several times, and she looks forward to seeing me. I'm not sure if she... Yes. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Sue Ellen Stewart is next, and after that, Marla Aaron. And if anyone else in the auditorium would like to fill out a card and speak, I would be more than happy to pick them up and call on you.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting all of us Kingmanites to your first tour, your first education tour. Hello, Kelly, Senator Ward. Hello, Diane, and I don't know your. Okay, well, it's nice meeting you. Yes, I'm Sue Ellen Stewart, and I am a very passionate former educator, okay? I've taught school in Chicago, Illinois, where those 62 national championship students are going, and I am so excited for them. The reason I'm excited for them is because when we first got started with JTED back in 2008, I championed that program. I campaigned for it to get it started. But I'm not here tonight to talk about JTED. What I'm here to talk about tonight is I was on an airplane coming back from Chicago last year, and in the pocket in front of my seat, there was a Times magazine called, and the cover of it said, Just Hired, and it had a student on the front cover with a graduate cap on. So of course I turned over the pages, and lo and behold, there was an article about students, high school students in Chicago, Illinois, attending the Sarah E. Good High School. And what their program does, they have the high school students going to high school for 6 years. Within their 6-year program, they graduate with a high school diploma, and they also graduate with an Associate's of Art degree, and they are allotted a job starting at $40,000 a year. Now, these schools are called P-Tech schools, okay? They're technical schools. However, they are sponsored by corporations, and the students get to be hired by the corporations that are sponsoring these schools. Now, these P-Tech schools are located over in the Midwest as well as the East Coast. I don't think we have a lot. I gave our Governor Ducey the article when he was here last Saturday night at the dinner. He has the entire article. I believe Tom Duransel was given the article as well. So what I'd like to see is a win-win situation with the students and a corporation sponsoring the students so that they can graduate and be hired at a job and become responsible tax-paying adults. That is what I want for our students, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Marla Aaron is next, and then John Townsend.
Thank you for coming and taking the time to listen to all of us. My name's Marla, and I'm a semi-new Arizonian. I'm a parent of 5, and I'm a teacher in Arizona, formerly from Oregon and New Mexico. And starting with good news, it's always great to be positive. I feel very happy to land here in Kingman at a wonderful school. I am working with great children and very amazing teaching and support staff. I can't say enough great things about the people I'm working with, and that's not coming from a new person. I've been around the block a lot. I've been teaching for 30 years. I've seen a lot of staffs, and the quality of staff we have here, at least at my school, is really wonderful. So I want to just give kudos to that. However, I think in this district and probably across most of Arizona, there's kind of a big elephant in the school, and that's the overcrowding of classrooms. There are lots of studies about just about everything, and people look at studies to decide which path to go down when they make decisions. But one of the things they also look at is funding and how best to spend the money. So sometimes they think a good way to spend money is to cut down on teaching staff and throw just a few more kids into that classroom. I have a classroom that was built when it was designed to hold 25 students, and I currently try to teach 35 students in that classroom. And that's not the highest number of children in the classroom at my school. Some other teachers have up to 41 students in their classroom. I don't think someone that isn't a teacher or an assistant or someone that hasn't spent a lot of time volunteering in an educative setting understands the impact just those few extra bodies in a classroom designed for less students has on the quality of the students' learning, no matter how wonderful and amazing the teachers in that classroom are. I would hope as a parent, my children are now going to Kingman area schools, and I would hope as a teacher that the overcrowding situation that is happening not just in Kingman, but across this state would be looked at and addressed, and a creative solution would be found, because it's my opinion as a parent and an educator that that's one of the strongest impacts on student achievement as a single factor. You can teach a smaller group with basically no materials and have a great outcome, but every time you add one more and just one more, it changes the whole amount that the children can get out of that lesson, not to mention dealing with more classroom issues and behavior problems. This is a low socioeconomic area, and every teacher that works in the school district here isn't just a teacher. They take on tasks that would normally be reserved for a truant officer, a social worker, and the list can go on and on. I think if you want to improve the outcome of students' education in Arizona, that would be a factor that you would strongly look at and find a way to solve without ruining the budget. The second thing I wanted to address is the way to teach. I know Common Core or not Common Core is kind of a hot button here in Arizona. And I have feelings about that, but I'm not going to get into that. What I do want to get into is the way people jump on the next new big thing and maybe look before they leave when deciding on a curriculum for an entire state of children. It's important to really look at who will be using that curriculum, not just the teachers, but the students, and what will best meet their needs, instead of just getting recruited by a curriculum company or the next big thing. I hope that the leaders in our state would take a legitimate amount of time to find out really what is best for our students. Teachers at my school don't really get off at 3:15, although that's when our contract says we leave. I know teachers that are working 50 and 60 hours a week. I'm included in that number. And I know teachers that leave after being there 9 or 10 hours to go home, say hi to their families, and they're still up till midnight or 1 grading papers or putting grades in the grade book. People don't teach for the money. That's definitely true everywhere, and for sure in Arizona. This is one of the worst paying teaching states. Last year I brought home $60,000 in another state teaching, and I had 2 assistants and I taught less hours. This year I'm making about half that, and I more than doubled my workload. So the long-term teachers are not in it for the money, and people shouldn't think that, even though they go, oh, you make $33,000, you make $35,000, you make $40,000. If you see what we make per hour, it's basically nothing. So I think that needs to be addressed also. I know everybody needs more money, but if you want the good teachers to stay, you need to look at that. I have friends in Oregon that won't even look at Arizona because of the low pay. That's just a few things to think about, and I'm thankful you took the time. I know all 3 of you are extremely busy, just like all of us here are that took the time. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And for anyone that's come in since we've started, we just want to remind you, if you'd like to speak, there's little cards to fill out, and just make sure one of the staff members gets them.
John Townsend is next, and then Dorothy Buccalow.
I am a member of one of the founding members of the Colorado River Tea Party Patriots in Bullhead City. I have some basic concerns. The curriculum that's being taught in our schools. I hear a lot about testing, and certainly I'm against Agenda 21 Common Core. However, all children are not designed to go to college. If we are not teaching them something that they can make a living and face life with, then we're in trouble. When I was in junior high, we had shop courses. I have used that training my whole life. We had home ec classes. In the 9th grade, we switched with the girls for a small period of time, but that was good information. We have to stop worrying so much about testing. It's my personal opinion. All of this concern about testing is to see if the teachers have taught the kids anything, not that the kids have learned anything. Now, that's a personal opinion. And maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. But I think we need to be a little more concerned about what the kids are being taught. Some of my classes were 45 plus. Most of them were probably about 30. When I went in the service, I found out that this little high school that I graduated from finally, after being in several high schools around the country, I found out that I was severely hurting with math. Consequently, I spent a lot of time in the schools that the Navy sent me to doing what they called an overtime situation, learning what I didn't learn in high school. What I learned in the Navy gave me a way to make a living for the rest of my life. But what I learned in school helped me throughout my whole life. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Hi, I'm going to try not to be long-winded, but it's sort of in my genetic makeup. My name is Dorothy Buckaloo. I have spent 36 years in the classroom as a math educator. I was also a principal several times, and I started Mojave Accelerated Learning Center in Bullhead, a charter school. What I have noticed about Common Core is that it is exceedingly complicated. It's simple concepts made complicated. I worked on the Ames concepts for about 5 years, and I remember when Common Core came in and we jumbled all the questions up. And every time I came to a Common Core question, I just threw it in the garbage. My students laughed hysterically. I said, I have no idea what they're asking. I also am volunteering. I'm retired, so I'm volunteering for a 5th grade classroom, and I've noticed whoever made up the 5th grade Common Core curriculum has a very unnatural affinity for fractions. Oh. And then the relevancy. Teaching some of my seniors parabolic functions has no connection to their later success in life. Our kids here need a job, and they need a job as soon as they leave high school. I've noticed throughout the years, I don't know if it's our culture, technology, or what, but my students have lost a little bit of social emotional intelligence. And I can honestly say I don't think they're very mature or mature enough to go to a 4-year program. Maybe down the line. But they need a plan. They need choices. Parents need choices. Right now, the kids say to me, why do we have to do this? And they feel like they're being bullied, and that, you know, how am I going to say, yeah, well, you're going to really get into your golf swing. That's why you need to know parabolas. Unless they're going into the STEM field, Common Core is totally irrelevant. What happens when testing is, and I agreed with the gentleman before me, when testing is overemphasized and scores are overemphasized? To get the higher scores, teachers are being micromanaged. They are also now they're being disciplined way beyond what I remember. If you have too many referrals, you may be getting on an assistance plan. If you have too many parental complaints because your standards are too high, an assistance plan. And the bottom line is many teachers are leaving because they don't have the freedom to make the classroom choices that they were trained to do. And this just breaks my heart. I see so many gifted teachers leaving the profession right now because of this. And lastly, Arizona needs to quit building the plane in flight. Really, I'm so tired of the next new thing, and we jump on the bandwagon, and we in Kingman are just trying to catch up to state mandates all the time. That's the tail that wags the local school dog, and boy, it really disheartens me. That's my spill.
Thank you very much. As Superintendent Douglas said, if anybody has come in later and would like to speak, all you need to do is fill out one of these cards. I'll be happy to pick them up. The next two speakers are Benji Hoekstra and Nicole Cohen.
Superintendent Douglas, Senator Ward. My name is Benji Hoekstra. I'm Assistant Superintendent for Bullhead City Elementary School District and the Colorado River Union High School District. First of all, I'd like to say that we have experienced, had pretty good experiences with the students taking the AZ Merit online. The technology is better with AZ Merit than what it was with Park, and the students really have taken to the test quite well. It was better than what we were afraid of, but it's going well, and we're thankful that we have a couple years to, really have everything measured out. And as you review the standards and so forth, I hope you really take time to review the depth and the rigor that's there. That's really the big difference between the standards now and the previous standards. And if you take a look at what the expectations are, I remember coming into the state 9 years ago and taking a look at what was expected of the students to pass Ames. And if you remember back in those days, the percentage of students that was expected to pass Ames, for example, at the junior high, which you needed 60% basically to pass, it was single-digit percentages. Single-digit percentages. Now that tells you what the expectations were. When you have expectations that low, you cannot expect to compete with the rest of the world. So, I really encourage you to take a look at the depth and the rigor of the standards as they are put out there for you. There's been plenty said about pay, and we all have our opinions about the budget and so forth. But one of the things that I'd really like for you to consider, years ago, Arizona funded all-day kindergarten. When you take a look at a child, where that child is at the end of first grade is where they'll be the rest of their life. If we're playing catch-up in second grade, we're going to be playing catch-up the rest of their school days. We need to put more emphasis on preschools, on kindergarten, and first grade. If we can have the children where they're supposed to be at the end of first grade, they'll be able to do wonders later on. We won't have to worry about their math, their reading. We won't have to worry about what test they take. They will do fine on anything. I would also like to encourage you to consider what Mr. Townsend had talked about, the experiences of electives in the junior highs. Currently, we're only able to offer just a few electives, like some technology, music, physical education, art, and so forth. But it's very important that the students do have consumer science, whether it's FFA programs or industrial technology and so forth. That's the way a lot of the students learn math. That's how they learn to survive. We also need to, make sure that we emphasize the social studies and the science and so forth, because that's where the students learn a lot of vocabulary. So, as you go on throughout the year and so forth, I really hope, you take a look open-mindedly about the depth and the rigor of whatever standards you choose. Thank you.
Can I ask?
Sure.
I just want to, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to ask if you have some feedback from the students about the AZ merit test, just because I know that you've given it.
Yes.
I just would like to have.
We took a survey at the high school, and roughly 82% of them preferred doing it on the computer and preferred the AZ merit compared to the Ames. In terms of they liked the test, or just they liked the way they took the test? They liked the test and the process.
Okay.
And we were really surprised at how well the students liked the writing compared to the old paper and pencil.
And do you know how many students were surveyed?
At River Valley, we serve roughly 700 students. At Mojave, there's roughly 1,300 students.
And did they all complete the survey? That's
yeah.
So 2,000 students completed the survey, and 82% said they prefer the test?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you have those results? I'd just like to have data.
We can have that sent to you.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yes, our curriculum director at the high school did that survey because we were interested in how they felt. And at the elementary level, the writing test went very well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nicole Cohen is next, and then Whitney Crow.
I just wrote a bunch of notes. I was going to save this for Saturday, but I think I'd like to go on the record today. And thank you all for coming out and letting us be the first that you hear from. I wanted to start and first say, for everybody who's in this room, I really appreciate that you're putting together a Title 15 committee to look at those and review those. And I think anybody who's really passionate about whether it's JTED or any of the statutes that we have to live under, to pick those apart, and even if they're not on the committee, to send their suggestions to your department would be fantastic. I know I plan on doing that with the assessments. As far as the funding, and I just jotted this down, so as far as the funding that we've all been experiencing, I just wanted to make the point that this is the first time, I believe, that we surpassed $10 billion in K-12 funding. So I'm always hearing how our schools are underfunded. But I think that there's a lot more to the story than it being underfunded. We have a 30-year-old broken funding formula that needs to be addressed. It would be helpful if we could have all of our great minds that are working with those budgets in the district help to address specific issues that we're dealing with. Because I know Lake Havasu Unified, we were grateful we were able to give a 3.5% increase to all of our teachers and support staff because of the additional increase that we got this year. And then I wanted to talk about the assessments a little, and with all due respect to Mr. Hoekstra, the depth and the rigor of the current standards, I wanted to say, developmentally, when I'm looking at the kindergarten through second grade standards, all the standards to me that start with help and prompting from, if you need help and prompting from an adult, I consider those to be developmentally inappropriate. If the child cannot master the standard without help and prompting, I would call that developmentally inappropriate. And I also wanted to make mention of a Stanford report, because we hear a lot about the math, at least I do in Lake Havasu. I hear a lot of parents complain about the math that's changed, and it is very confusing. And Stanford just came out with a study, it was the end of last summer, and it was about math. And basically, they talked about to be successful in math, you need to drill and memorize those basic math facts at an early grade. That was the most important, and that was because it builds connections to the hippocampus, which I have no idea what that is, but I'm sure Kelly does. And they said if you don't do that, these lengthy word problems that are being, that the children are doing at the younger grades, they're disorganizing the brain. This is the term they use at a very young age. And they talk in this extensive study about how that is, it doesn't allow for higher order math for that child, and it leads to lifelong issues when it comes to math. So I think that's important to address when you're looking at the standards, at least those two issues for me. And I'm not a content expert, and when I read over the standards, I can't see anything wrong with them either, but I'm not an expert, and neither are a lot of the teachers that read the standards. They're not experts on actual standards. So I hope that we have some true experts that write standards and have for a living that will also be reviewing the standards. And then when it comes to the assessment, the AZ merit, I wanted to mention I've been trying to get the validity reports from AIR, American Institutes for Research, the one who we chose last year to develop the AZ merit, and they don't exist. And I'm really curious about that because it's my understanding, listening to experts that write assessments for students, that there should be a validity report that tells you that this assessment is going to do what it says it's going to do. And I haven't been able to find that anywhere on the Arizona Department of Ed website. And I called in and there is nothing. So I think that's a big problem, and I think that should also be addressed. I think that was all that I had. I just think that it's important, the whole math part of the standards, because we talk about STEM a lot, and if we're turning these kids off at a very young age because they're not being drilled and they're not memorizing those basic math facts, we can forget about STEM, at a later date. But thank you. I'll have more on Saturday. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Whitney Crow is next, and then Carrie Burgess.
Good afternoon, ladies. Thank you for coming. I don't think this happens very often, that the state comes out and visits with us and gets the opinions of the citizens, as Kelly said, especially out of the great state of Maricopa. So thank you for coming. Rural Arizona, I think, as probably rural anywhere, has many different sets of issues than the city does. And so I think it's important that you get that today. So thank you for that. Another positive, I just have to say thank you for the great customer service at the Department of Education. I really think that your predecessor did a great job of making that an important factor in service, and I've seen that continue. I know you haven't been there long, but certainly that has continued, and so thank you. So often in a small district, I don't have a curriculum expert or a data analyst to review things for me, and so I rely heavily on the department for their information and knowledge, and so thank you for that, and keep up that good work. I would like to echo Superintendent Hoekstra's comments about AZ Merit. Our students also took that this year, and we were extremely pleased with the ease of how that went. We were quite worried just because anything new is scary anyway. Anything new with technology is often worse, and yet we seem to go through that fairly well and smooth. So thank you for that. Keep up the good work. Whatever you end up with, I think that's been a good platform for providing testing. I have to agree with everyone that's spoken, except perhaps our last person, that funding is probably our biggest issue in education. I think that the state has a responsibility to provide a quality education, and so I think that's going to take some money to do, but you can certainly argue that back and forth. I think probably the biggest issue that's affecting us currently, at least in my small district, and I'm a superintendent of Mojave Valley Elementary School District, so a small district south of Bullhead City, is recruiting teachers. We have a heck of a time getting teachers to come to our rural area, and I do believe that part of that is the rural issue. But I will tell you the number one factor for people turning me down last year after we offered a position was that they didn't think they could come and live on the salary they made with us. And so I don't think that's certainly an Arizona-only issue, but I certainly think it isn't helped by the problems with the budget that we have. I recently spent a week in Michigan recruiting teachers. I was appalled to read an article that Arizona State University, who has a wonderful basketball coach, Mr. Hanson, was only turning out 35 College of Education graduates this year. That amazes me. In Michigan, I would say there were probably more recruiters, and it was a 5-day stint, different day at every university. There were more recruiters on the campus than there were kids at the job fair. And so I know it's not just an Arizona problem, and I think there's a lot of issues that go into that. Funding, I'm sure, and salary is one of those, but I think just the lack of respect for education, that sort of thing is an issue. We've gone with long-term subs in classrooms all year long. In 3 classrooms in our district, which is difficult in such a small district, finding substitutes, let alone substitutes that have any kind of educational background. So it's hurting us, and throughout all this, we're still being held accountable. And so I just ask that you would look into that. I know that's not anymore just a rural issue. There are many schools from Phoenix districts there as well, and so that's an issue. I found it interesting, one of the speakers before me mentioned a program where they're turning out people with $41,000 a year jobs. I think that's great. Our teachers make $31,000 a year. And I will tell you that 28 years ago when I began, my first contract was $19,500. So we haven't even got to double that yet in the last 28 years. I guess if you look at inflation and that sort of thing, maybe it wouldn't necessarily double, but I think it would be a little bit farther along. In fact, when I ran the numbers a couple of years ago, it would be farther along than that. So that's a problem, and it's affecting the quality of education that we can offer, and something needs to be done with that. As far as Common Core goes, I want to go on record as saying I personally support that. I would disagree with our last speaker that I think our teachers and our educators are much more of an expert than what they're given credit for. And I would like to encourage you that as you look at the Common Core standards and the surrounding issues, that you would poll educators to find what their issues are. And what they see is that. I know last year we did a very unscientific poll that just asked if they supported the Common Core standards, our teachers on our staff. And half of them did without reservation. The other half were sketchy, but their biggest issue was how are we going to be implementing these and how will we be held accountable for the results. That kind of leads into my next topic, testing. You know, I think we've always had testing. Back in my first year's teaching, before we had standards and Ames tests and those sorts of things, we had a chapter test at the end of every week. We had a unit test at the end of every unit, and we had a end of the year test. And so we're really not doing a lot more testing per se, because you had those in every subject. What we're having an issue with is the emphasis that's put on the results of those assessments. And I understand there's a need for accountability, and I certainly think that test results need to be part of that, but it can't be the whole picture. And so I think if we can figure that out, we'll be quite a bit ahead of the game. Finally, as not only an educator, but probably more as a dad who's had 2 children go through the Colorado River Union High School District programs and have been able to take advantage of the JTED and the dual enrollment programs, you have a great program going there. My eldest daughter, although she chose to still do 4 years worth of college at Arizona State University, she certainly didn't have to. She ended up using that money and getting a double major. My younger daughter, who's graduating this year, will come out and be able to finish her associate's degree in a year. Not quite as fast as some of the folks that have spoken before me, but that certainly gives her a jump start in her education. And so hats off to the community colleges and the JTED programs who do that. I think the other thing that we sometimes miss with the JTED programs is the preparedness, or the different programs that aren't necessarily college ready, as our speaker spoke. We're not all going to college, and I think we understand that in education, but I will tell you what, these JTED programs, whether it be in fire science, in hospitality management, in certifying nursing assistants, these kids that we're turning out with these certificates as they leave high school are certainly doing the job of preparing kids for college and for a job before they get there. So hats off to those folks. Again, thank you.
Thank you very much. Carrie Burgess is next, and then Crystal Green.
Hello. Thank you for coming to listen and allow us to offer our input. I really appreciate that. My name is Carrie Burgess. I serve on the Colorado River Union High School District, their board in Bullhead City and Fort Mojave. 4 years before that, I was on the elementary school board in Bullhead City. So by profession, though, my day job is I'm a dentist. What I wanted to address was a little bit of what Mr. Hoekstra hit home. Growing up in this community, graduating from this area of high school, I found myself going to college severely underprepared for what was ahead of me. I overcame, I did well, but I was grossly unprepared. Now raising my own kids here in this area, I want the best for them. My biggest struggle with what I see in the educational system is our lack of commitment to high standards. As Mr. Hoekstra explained, we're so worried about how that poor kid who's not doing well is going to, go from the bottom 25% up to the bottom 30%, while we completely ignore the kids who want to do well and continue to perform. What I would hope for is a state that we would be able to look at the top performing states in the whole union and ask ourselves, do our standards at least match up to that? Are we expecting at least the same material from our own children that they're gaining results from in whatever state happens to be the very best? I know we're not there today, but where we're at, I want to see much better. I want to say it's 47th in the union, last I heard, was how Arizona ranked as far as education. That's far from the top. And we can't do that without first setting the standard we want everybody to achieve and then developing the rigor to get there. A lot of people will dismiss testing. I don't know of any other way to effectively determine whether a student learns the material. In every profession in life that expects that person to meet a certain level of competency, it's always tested. We can't ignore that. We can't not realize that's a significant part of our educational process. It can't be the only part, but what other way do we measure our kids' ability to absorb the information and then apply the information, which I think is the most important part of education. Because we can teach all day, and if they can't apply the information we've given them, we failed them to a great degree. Knowing that, with the high expectations we want on our professionals, our teachers, we've got to be able to recruit the very best. We are operating under, like someone else said today, a budget formula that is very, very broken. To give perspective, the fire department in our community, between salary and benefits, their average employee is paid over $106,000 a year, where our teachers are grossly under that. I want to say between salary and benefits combined, operates around $45,000 a year. How can we as taxpayers that fund both of those organizations say that's an appropriate balance? We need to fund our teachers better in order to recruit the very best and expect the very best from them, because it is a tough job that they have. I thank you for your time, and I appreciate the ear. I honestly do, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Crystal Green.
My name is Crystal Green, and I agree with everything that everybody said today. Also, I just wanted to point out that science, there is a lack of science experiments. My daughter was in a charter school, and they did volcanoes and, hands-on, whereas now they don't do that at all. There's no funding for that. So the students aren't motivated to go to school. They have nothing to look forward to. And other than that, the testing I agree with, we need to know where our kids are at so we know what they're learning and what they're not learning and where we need to help. Thank you for your time.
I have one last card that looks like it's more of a comment. Sylvia, did you want to speak? Sylvia Cole is our next and last speaker.
Good evening, and thank you for coming here. I am not a teacher. I am part of the core group, the beginning group of the Colorado River Tea Party Patriots. I am coming because we put up signs to get Diane Douglas elected. We worked on this on your campaign in Bullhead City, Fort Mojave, wherever it was that we were available to put up signs. My question is, you ran on getting rid of Common Core. Is that going to happen? Are you still working towards that? My second thing is that I realize that Common Core is different from what has been going on. From what I understand, and since I'm not a teacher, from what I understand, that as far as history and civics, it has changed considerably the way it's being presented. It appears, from what I hear other people talking about, and one of them, Sonny Borelli, said that he read a Common Core book till his eyes bled, is the way he put it. It was so convoluted, and history changed within the Common Core standards. As far as math is concerned, my next door neighbor is a retired math teacher, and she started looking into this, and she said, how can they teach this way? The standards are, they're not memorizing anymore. These roadmaps to I don't know, problem-solving type of thing, It's not a memorization type of thing, from what I understand, that it used to be. Kids need, just like we needed back 50 years ago, 60 years ago, they need ways to make a living. They need ways to make sure that they are regulated and ready for life. That is what the schools are all about, to be able to have these kids take care of themselves and to be able to succeed. And I don't know if that's going to happen as far as Common Core is concerned. I am concerned, the Tea Party is concerned, and from what I understand, from what I think, that a lot of the parents, they should be concerned, but how can they get to school board meetings if they have kids to take care of when they get home, pack lunches for the next day or what the heck ever they do, get to their jobs? They don't have the time to get to the school board meetings. And then the school board meetings say you can have 3 minutes to speak at the beginning, but then you can't talk when we're discussing an issue. That's not right either. It's got to be open to the public so they have ways to present what their problem is at the school board meetings. The third problem is, or the third question, my concern is, let me put it that way. From what I understand, Governor Ducey, he didn't get to our Tea Party meetings to speak to us. But from what I understood, I don't know whether he actually addressed the issue of Common Core when he was running for governor. I want to know whether he is at the dinner last Saturday, I believe it was 2 Saturdays ago here in Kingman. He was the speaker, and he said, and we are going to get rid of Common Core in Arizona. Is that true? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would want to mention that if any of you have examples or articles that you would like to submit along with your comments, we would be happy to do that. We've heard a lot about mathematics. If you have an example of a mathematic problem or mathematic homework that's been given that you would like to pass on to us, we'd be more than willing to accept that at the address that's on the screen or on the comment form. I have 2 other speakers that have signed up. Becky Franklin is next, and then Allison Odom.
Hi. Thank you very much for coming here to Kingman. We really appreciate that. And I also want to thank you for listening to us and giving us an opportunity to speak. I'm not usually somebody who gets up and speaks in front of people, so. The first thing I want to say is, Mrs. Douglas, I just appreciate so much that you threw out the smart snacks for our fundraisers. I am a teacher at Kingman High, and our club runs we call it a cafe. We sell coffee drinks and snacks to the students in the morning, and we sell coffee and tea and hot chocolate and different drinks to the teachers during the day. And it gives my students with disabilities an opportunity to have some job skills and customer service skills. They have to learn how to count money and count cash and be polite. There's so much they get out of that. And when the smart snack rule came in, it pretty much cut the heart out of our business because people didn't want to buy stuff that was as healthy. And I think they should get healthier things, and I try to get healthier things, but the truth is the students stop at 7-Eleven on the way, and if they can't buy it from us, they're going to buy it from somebody else. So they get it. It's not that it was helping them be healthier, but it was really hurting my students' opportunities. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Let's see. I'm a parent of 2 graduates from Kingman High School, and both of them took full advantage of the CTE programs. And one of my children has disabilities and one does not have disabilities. They were both program completers, and it is just, I think, really, really valuable. And the JTED program is so valuable to our students, both as a parent and as a teacher. I see that. I teach at Kingman High. I've taught for 16 years. The first 5 years were in California, and the last 11 have been here in Kingman. And I did take a 50% pay cut when I moved here, and I'm still making about half of what my friends in California are still making, but I love Kingman, and I really love Arizona. Let's see. Common Core. I work with students with intellectual disabilities, significant cognitive disabilities, and I have worked with the National Center and State Collaborative, which is the NCSIC consortium. I've worked with Audra down at this department, Audra Amata at the Department of Ed. And I also did some work with EdCount on the assessments that we're giving to our students with the significant cognitive disabilities. And I really like the direction that it's taking for our kids. Our kids can do so many things beyond just the functional life skills of doing laundry and the basic things that they have expected our kids with significant disabilities to do. I love that our kids are being asked to do math and being asked to do reading, and it is such broadened the curriculum for them. Right now we're in the process of administering the NCSIC test, which is the test for students with cognitive disabilities, as opposed to the AZ Merit. And it's got a little rough spots in it because it's something new. I gave a pilot test earlier in the year, and I was involved in the writing pilot a couple years ago. But it's really an improvement for our kids to be able to be expected to have high expectations. You know, it just broadens the perspective from our kids. Even our very low kids are learning much more. We're giving them some math skills, we're giving them some language skills, we're expecting them to read and find key ideas and find information. And it's really broadening their lives. And I just think that part of the Common Core has been so good, and I do not want to see that go away. Our kids really can do a lot, and giving them the expectations and the opportunities has been really helpful, along with giving them the life and the social skills that they need as well. The AZ Merit Test, my experience with it as a teacher with students with disabilities is that I like the accommodations that are built in. Being able to give it on the computer, all the kids have headphones and are listening to it and it's read to them. It makes my students with disabilities not stand out. They're given the same opportunities. Being able to have a thesaurus to look up, being able to have things read to them and being able to type it in has, I think, been really good for my kids. I haven't seen it given the AZ Merit, but just from the accommodations standpoint, I think that's a really good thing. Class sizes. I just wanted to make a comment that in our classes, working with kids with significant disabilities, the standard class sizes this year for our kids at the high school have been 9 to 14 or 15 in a class. And kids with significant disabilities really should be in smaller class sizes. It's quite a big class for the kids that we work with. Next year it's going to be even more because one of our teachers has been RIF'd, and we're only going to have 3 teachers who serve approximately 45 students with significant disabilities. So it makes it harder for us to teach our kids when we have larger class sizes, as it does for all teachers. And I don't know a lot about how the funding works. I just know that it hurts teachers and it hurts kids when our class sizes are larger. And that's all I have to say. I really thank you for coming and listening to me today.
Thank you. Well, Allison is next, to be followed by Leonard Walker.
Hello, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it as citizens and teachers that you're here and you're willing to take the time to speak with us. I'm a teacher at the Bullhead City School District. Love my profession. Again, we don't do it for the money, but more money would be nice. Last year...
Would you repeat your name, please? I missed it.
Allison Odom.
Thank you.
Last year, I read an article that showed that Mojave County has one of the least educated counties in the entire United States. To me, that's shocking. That's scary for me, to know that my own children are growing up in a community that has very low educated people living here. I feel that Mojave County has very little to offer a majority of the citizens. Many of them are retired, or they come here during the winter from Canada or back east to escape their cold winters. As a teacher, there was very little incentive to move to our county because of the low salary. As a teacher, we're trying to, at our school alone, we have many openings, and throughout our district, we have about 80 openings between 4 elementary schools, 2 junior highs, and 2 high schools. trying to recruit good teachers to come here is very hard because our community offers so little to teachers. When we do get teachers, they get their training, their 2-3 years, and then they move back east or back to California where there is a higher salary. A suggestion that I have, and I never heard about, well, I knew that high schools, they offer career training in different areas. And I think if we were able to get more money put into the high schools to get students that already live in these communities that have ties, they have their families, getting them the resources, the training in cosmetology or the training in auto, different programs like that would be an amazing way to get people to stay here. Also, I have a coworker I work with that benefited from the dual enrollment at college in high school. She graduated high school. She already had her 2-year degree, associate's degree. She went right away to NAU, and she was a teacher by the age of 19 years old. And that's what we need to do in a rural community like ours. We need to train from within. And cutting programs that are going to help the citizens that already live here is just going to be even worse for Mojave County as a whole. And also, at our own school, we've been struggling with long-term substitutes. It's very hard to get teachers to come here, and it's not doing well with our kids. We're playing catch-up year after year. We're supposed to be scaffolding the knowledge our kids know, when really we're just catching up what they should have learned the year before. When it comes to Common Core, different subject, I think it's a great framework that builds on real-world situations. Common Core scaffolds on the knowledge students should already know. Implementing it now, when the kids don't already have the background from kindergarten up, is quite a bit of a challenge. For example, students going into 4th grade should already know their math facts, when they should have learned it previously, but they never did because our old standards didn't have that in it. Common Core has great things that have to go with it, but I think that you need to spiral with the kids and not expect teachers to give those kids that are in that grade level everything they need to know in those standards without knowing what their background knowledge was beforehand. Common Core is rigorous and it prepares students for real-world situations. Just today I was teaching my 3rd graders 2x2 multiplication, and Common Core gave us the perspective to teach them multiplication in more than 4 different ways. You have area model, you have box method. It's giving these kids that wouldn't have understood a certain way different perspectives to view this knowledge that they're learning, and it's really helping them. I'm seeing their confidence go up just by giving them different ways to understand the content. Also, as Common Core, as Mojave County, this is a very transient city. Many people move here because the cost of living is very low. Because we're right at the tri-state, we have many people coming here from back east that find jobs here at the casinos. They're here for a couple months and then they move on. Common Core gives a way for these kids to not get lost. If they move from a different state to here, it's not playing catch up, or it's not that they're on the same page. If they're in 3rd grade in a different state, they come here, they're going to be learning the same content. Right across the river in Laughlin, Nevada, we have students that move over into Bullhead, and they're much lower than our students in the Bullhead School District. They don't have the knowledge that our kids have. They are not held to the same expectations from previous years. I believe that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Leonard Walker.
As many others have said, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to speak tonight and to present my questions. So thank you for this listening tour. I am a Catholic priest, and so I'm a product of private education, private paid education, parochial schools, all the way up to my master's degree level, and have a great appreciation of alternative forms of education, etc. I'm also an active and proud member of the Democratic Party here in Mojave County, so today's my day off, and I come dressed like this after having volunteered there. But this is my question. Are there any studies regarding the impact of charter schools on public school funding, especially the funding cuts, and most significantly here in rural counties such as ours? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Let's see. We have Connie German, who would like to make a comment.
Yes, I'd like to also thank you all for coming out here to Mojave County. I am employed with Kingman Unified School District. I'm currently a special ed assistant. I've been working for Kingman Unified School District now for 8 years. I've been in this position for 25 years also in Washington State. I have a concern. As an assistant, I work in the middle school at Black Mountain, and I work in the 7th and 8th grade resource room. This year, we've had four long-term subs in our room. Our students are discouraged, confused, haven't learned anything this school year by having 4 different long-term subs. As their assistant and seeing these students come up through the years, it's very discouraging to me to see what's happened to these students. Right now we've been doing the AZ Merit, and I found that a lot of their accommodations, for example, their text to read, were not instilled into their software. And I have many of them that are testing on a level of 1st and 2nd grade. So when they go in to take that AZ Merit test, they don't put in any effort. They're very discouraged. Their reading levels are very low. They aren't able to use that accommodation. I brought that up to those that could take care of it, and they said that that's how it is. And my students, being 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, they would come in and they would talk to me and say, wow, this is awful. I couldn't read it. I didn't understand it. Also, when it comes to their math skills, I also worked with Becky Franklin for a while, who also spoke, and the life skills are really what they need to have at this point. The Common Core math right now, y-intercepts, linear, probability, these things, these kids, they don't understand it, they don't know it, they don't have the ability to learn it. And I really do feel that as we go through the AZ Merit testing, we should incorporate a test that would be midstream. Because since they don't qualify for what would have before been called Ames A, now they're having to take the regular test, and they're frustrated. They're done 15 minutes, a half an hour. And I really feel that we're doing a disadvantage to our special ed kids. Basically, that's all I have to say. I just have a heart for these kids, and I feel that we are doing a disadvantage to them, especially in Mojave County, where they're going to need life skills. They're going to need basic hands-on training. Thank you very much.
give us your name.
Hi, welcome to Mojave County. My name is Melody Petruska. I live in Golden Valley. I've been there 15 years. I have a grandson who goes to Black Mountain. Has had many issues since he's been going there. They have had teachers leaving constantly, principals leaving constantly. They're always having issues over there. I have to back this young lady up that just came up here and spoke. I didn't get her name, but she's correct. My grandson's totally fed up. He's doing math. He's been kicked out of school. The Board of Education told him that he was to be out. He's been out for 6 months on false accusations, and he went to court over it. He was dismissed, and he was still not allowed back in school. Now, he has a disability, and my problem is, why is he not allowed in school? If I were a parent and I kept him out, I'd be in jail right now. Why is he allowed to stay out? Because the school board said so. He is not getting any education. He's been out for 6 months, and the Board of Education gentleman said he was standing on his final issue. The principal of Black Mountain said that she was wanting him expelled. She pulled that away from it. She did not want him expelled. She's seen some issues there that were not correct, that there were some misunderstandings, and he was kicked out of school, and he's not allowed back. Now, there's supposed to be a meeting on April 20th with the Board of Education. My daughter's going. But my problem is, who's teaching him now? He's out of school. He's fallen behind. So what happens then? Where does he go? He's supposed to be in 5th grade. The teacher even said she would pass him on to 6th grade and talk to the Board of Education, but they will not. The man said, I stand on what I said, and he refuses out of his stubbornness to do anything about it, and he's destroying a child's life and his education. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a card from Scott Larson. Scott, if you'd like to come up.
First of all, I like the way you guys have set this up, where you're just collecting data tonight, returning in August and September, and I certainly hope you will commit to that and be back to see us again, because we will eagerly await answers to some of these concerns. Thank you. So, 15-year teacher in Arizona, 3 in La Paz County, and 12 here in Mojave. And so it's a little hard to go this late in the program just because it's hard to say things that haven't been said, but I know one concern from educators is the time frame that we're going to be looking at if Common Core is done away with. I think one of our fears is how many years will it take to get something new in place, because we know something has to be in place. And so that's kind of a fear we have. Are we going to get stuck behind the 8 ball even further if we don't have some system going? Okay, so that's number one. Secondly, is a financial question. I don't know how many millions were spent getting Common Core or getting merit, the whole process. But it seems a little wasteful of taxpayer dollars to not even give it a chance and just switch to something else. And I'm not saying I'm the biggest Common Core fan and merit fan there is, but are we being responsible to our taxpayers? And finally, one thing that's, I know, very frustrating to classroom teachers is switching programs after they've even got a chance to get going. And so I think most educators would say, give us a program, give us a chance to make it work. Okay, and I'm not going to lie and say that I think Common Core is the right program, but it does seem like we haven't been in it very long, and now there's a lot of pressure to switch it. So thank you for hearing me, and I look forward to seeing you again in August or September.
Okay, well, that was our last card. Is there anyone else? Charlie, would you like to come up? This is Charlie Hupp.
I'm an engineer and I taught electronics
I also was a substitute teacher in K through 12 in Colorado Springs for a number of years, and I worked out at the community college here for 6 years. I have two things. One, there was a big thing about creative thinking. Well, at the college, part of my responsibility was advising new students who were having trouble. And in math, a lot of them were having trouble. And I found out the reason they were having trouble because they didn't know their multiplication tables. And I taught them how to make a multiplication table and to learn it. And creative thinking's fine, but you have to memorize some things, okay? The other comment I have, being an engineer, taking a lot of math, having been an engineering manager, applied math, and so on, Common Core stinks.
Okay, we do have a few more cards. We have Jenny Borland and then Tanya Gold.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Borland. Thank you for being here. I'm a parent in Bullhead City at Diamondback. I've worked in education for about 15 years. I've been a sub up in the Bullhead Elementary School District for the past 3 years. And I can honestly tell you that I had a chance at having a contract full-time for this upcoming school year, and I wouldn't even consider working full-time, not necessarily in the district, but in the state. I subbed long-term at the beginning of the school year for 2.5 months when there wasn't a teacher in 3rd grade, and I felt like I was teaching to the test most of the time. There were so many changes going on. The curriculum wasn't aligning with the tests. I felt like every 2 days out of our 5 days was testing. You're taking 3 days to teach a new standard, which is Common Core, that they weren't even able to learn from last year. We went right in from multiplication to division in the first 2 weeks of school, and they were already being assessed on it. I'm not saying Common Core is all bad. I did some research into it. I think being spiraled in through kindergarten and working its way up, there could be success in it, but the way it was implemented, it set it up for failure. I feel that a big part of the problem is consistency in our school district here. There's no consistency in the teachers. There's classroom turnover rate. They're so desperate to get a teacher into the classroom, they're hiring anybody into a classroom. There's not consistency with the curriculum. I've seen changes with that, and I've had kids in elementary school since, gosh, a long time. And I've been in the school district with kids for 17 years at Diamondback alone. So I've been up there a while. There's not consistency in our school schedule. It changes. Oh, we're going to have 5 days. We're having early release on Wednesdays. Oh, we're going to have 5 days with early release on Fridays. Oh, we're going to a 4-day school week. So now you want us to teach Common Core. You want us to test. You want us to have a 4-day school week. You want optional Fridays. And they're cutting back on the amount of days our kids are going to school. They're increasing the amount of time that they're in school, but it isn't even extra time that they already aren't in there. They're telling us that school time will now start 20 minutes earlier, but technically the kids are in there right now the extra 20 minutes on a breakfast program where they have to eat in their classroom, which I'm against that. I don't think it's sanitary. Kids are eating off of desks that aren't cleaned and sanitized properly, and if they are, it's because teachers are bringing in the Clorox wipes to wipe them down and clean them themselves. They're not being provided for. And I don't feel there's any retention programs. And this year I had a lot of teachers ask me, are you coming in to work full-time next year? And I asked pretty much every teacher I've worked with up there, can you give me 3 good reasons why I should teach full-time next year? And the best one they could give me is, you can work with me every day. And to me, that's not a real good reason. And I mean, I would do it for the kids. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love being in a classroom. I love working with the kids. I started my teaching career out working in a youth shelter with a multi-age classroom. I mean, that was quite the experience. And I would go back and work in that type of an environment again where I worked for 7 years before I would go back into the elementary school district and work with the expectations that are required out of these teachers for what they're compensated with.
Thank you. Tanya Gold is next, and then Barbara Pape.
Hi, my name's Tanya Gold. I have 5 children which will be attending Diamondback next year. I'm also a substitute teacher. My biggest thing is I adopted my 5 young children. They are all special needs, which were drug and meth babies. And our special ed department there pretty much is terrible. Mr. Holkstrom has dealt with me, and he's been marvelous. But what my kids have had to go through is just downright crazy. I could go on forever about that. My next thing is I've been also in a long-term sub position this year, and never once did somebody even come in my classroom and ask me if I needed anything to make sure I was doing anything correctly. I had my lead. I was in a first grade classroom. But no one ever even checked. I was in there and I could have been doing whatever I wanted and no one even knew what I was doing. The other thing is the way subs are called. Pretty much now, I know 4 of us that work at Diamondback. When our phones ring in the morning with the gentleman that calls us, we pretty much don't even answer anymore because he plays such games with us. The teachers will ask us about a week in advance, and we can send him a message and ask him, and he'll tell me, oh, well, I haven't scheduled you yet, I'll let you know. Well, we already know where the teacher wants us in there. He pretty much has told our secretary, I placed subs where I want them to be. The teachers, I would say, should know if they want us in their classroom. They're requesting us for a reason. We would be the best people in there to help these kids and to teach them, instead of putting a sub in there that's gonna put on a movie and let the kids watch a movie all day, not do anything that's on the sub plans. And I've seen that happen because I'm a parent that if I'm not subbing that day, I'm pretty much there every other day helping in the office or volunteering in my kids' class. One time last month, my first grade child's teacher got sick. Her daughter fell or something happened at the daycare. She got called. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm a sub. I didn't get, there was 4 of us subs that didn't get called. The teacher texted me and told me, hey, Tanya, I'm going home. Can you come in? And I said, well, we weren't called. And so I called up to our principal, Mr. Mulick, and asked him, hey, what's going on? And he said that the sub coordinator had told him that he couldn't get a hold of any of us subs. So what happened was that whole first grade class was then turned into with the other 3 classes. So my child then, where I could have been in that class, or Jeannie, or whoever else are subs in Bullhead City, we should have been called somebody rather than splitting those 25 kids to go into another class to disrupt them. And my son didn't learn anything. He sat at a back table and pretty much drew pictures the whole day. I just think there needs to be total consistency with the subs and with the sub coordinator. Thank you.
Can I ask you just one little question? Sorry.
Yes.
Has that been brought up with administration, the issues?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Barbara Pape, and then Joe Longoria.
Good evening. I am a retired remediation teacher in California, and I did it for 12 years. And one thing that is not being pointed out here is that children are not the same. They don't learn the same. They all have different learning abilities, audio, visual, kinetic, and these kids need to be, it has to be recognized that we cannot go with one particular format for all kids. The other issue I have is indoctrination. Common Core has indoctrinated information. We do not need to take American culture, our history of family, the history of religion. Our founding fathers gave us 3 things: freedom of prosperity, the freedom to advance in the classes, and religious tolerance. I am a Christian, and they have taken out, they have picked out Christian format and placed in other Muslim and other, mainly Muslim. And I don't like that. The other thing that I don't like is the mathematics. Mathematics needs repetition and memorization. They cannot learn how to balance check, which is adding and subtracting. In my first grade, when I was attending school, the banks came in and helped the children start a savings account. They showed them how to add and subtract and how to save. We need more lifestyle teaching in our curriculum, and we need to stop this. Also, what I'm hearing tonight, we need more management, more secure management of our teachers, substitutes, and the clerical, anything that supports education. We cannot go hodgepodge. We cannot go without security, feeling secure of what we're teaching. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Longoria.
Hi, Joe Longoria. I'm chairman of the Mojave County Democrats, and I echo everybody else when I appreciate that you are here listening to the voice of Mojave County. I just wanted to make a comment on, I really appreciate Superintendent Douglas that you said this was not going to be a political format, and I really appreciate that because sometimes that does get in the way of how we should take care of our children. And I appreciate that. I hope that what we get out of this, your tour, is that we should be focusing on the children. And thank you. I'm going to give you my feelings on the Arizona College Readiness and Career Standards. I look at it like Obamacare. Not perfect, however, the Obamacare is doing what it wanted to do. It is ensuring more Americans and hospitals like that, and it is also, the fact is, it has reduced healthcare inflation at its lowest rate in 50 years. Now, how I turn that over to the Common Core is that Common Core in some districts in Arizona has produced excellent results. So I ask that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we work to tweak it, just like Obamacare is not perfect. It needs tweaking like most legislation that comes out of Congress needs tweaking, and our readiness standards as well need to be tweaked. But I hope that when it comes down to the decisions that you do make, that regardless if it's a conservative idea or a liberal idea, that we take ideology out and you do what's best for the children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Superintendent, that was the last card we have.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to make any comments or?
Mike, not a comment about that. I just want to say Representative Cobb is here. So.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to say that Representative Cobb is here. She snuck in, and then so she's back there. Say this is one of your state reps, Regina Cobb. So if you all haven't met her, she's here and has been listening also attentively with Superintendent File. So I'm sure that both of us will be around to talk to you all if you need to. So I just wanted to make sure she got noticed and she wasn't up here with us.
Yes, sir. Do you have a comment? Please step up.
My name's Art Sukup. I've lived here for about 10 years. I know that this country is in deep trouble. My background, I was studying trigonometry in the 6th grade. Before I was in the 10th grade, I had solid geometry, plane geometry, chemistry, science, American history, archaeology. And then I moved on to calculus. Went into the military, became a nuclear weapons specialist. Get out, went to Kennedy Space Center, put the man on the moon, Apollo Systems project, single sideband engineer. Charlie and I talk about electronics a lot. Left Kennedy Space Center, went to work for RCA Information Systems Division. One of my teachers was John Eckert. Eckert and Mockley were the co-inventors of the modern digital computer. And I had the luxury of having one of the inventors to be my teacher. As a result of that, there are many things that you use today that came out of those efforts. I've heard a wide range of problems. I haven't heard a solution. So I'm going to offer you a solution. This is based upon my background. The component that is in the brain, by the way, Kelly, is the intraparietal sulcus. It hooks to the amygdala. The amygdala in the brain is where your learning occurs. It's your rubber buffer. The intraparietal sulcus is basically where your central processing unit is in your head. If you take your head off, it's right about there, about 1 inch of the head. It needs to be stimulated at a very early age. You need to have a kindergarten with all those little square blocks. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, plus, minus, square root. All those symbols will stimulate that. Without that, you have no hope of making any kind of progress, regardless of what format you're going to use. It's just not going to happen because it locks down at a very early age. So there's a way to fix that. The second thing, if for an immediate answer, there is an experiment that's being run up in Washington State. You can go check on that up there. I don't know the individual names, but you can find it on YouTube. I know that you have the internet in the schools. There is an individual by the name of Salman Khan. I don't know if you ever heard his name before. But he was a quant. A quant is a rocket scientist that figures out how to do foreign exchange trades. He became a multimillionaire, and I guess his daughter or his cousin or something asked him one day to help her with algebra. She didn't understand algebra. So he started to put little YouTubes together, 5-minute sections. To make a long story short, Bill Gates' daughter goes to that, and he decided to fund Salman big time because he was making this thing happen out of his closet, okay? And what you see when you go to Salman Khan, if you want to learn the Pythagorean theorem, all you see is a blackboard. You don't see the man. You just see a colored chalk. Him talking, a colored chalk. And he shows you how the Pythagorean theorem works. So the public education system up in Washington State has this stuff dialed in at the 1st grade level. And there are kids up there in the 2nd grade and 3rd grade, they're doing trigonometry, and they love it. The place is called Khan Academy. Go to your website, you can sign in. How many students go there every day? Current estimate is 4.5 million people worldwide dial into that website, and everything is broken down in little pieces. As you said, kids learn at a different rate. So if you're interested in geometry, you can go to the solid geometry. If you want to learn banking, you can go to banking. If you wish to learn chemistry, you can go to chemistry. If you wish to learn history, you can go to history. And the information is no more than maybe 5 or 7 minutes at a time. The kid watches the YouTube, he thinks about it, and it's great. That is your solution that you can apply instantaneously to Mojave County and to the entire state, and you will see a turnaround just like that. That's all I have to say.
Are we done? Well, I think we still have this room for a little bit of time, so we'll close our listening tour now, but I think if you're able, Senator, and I know I'll be glad to stay, and Representative, and we'd be glad to speak with you one-on-one. To the one lady, I don't see her now, that talks so eloquently about how different children are and how they all have different needs. I'll just briefly, if you'll bear with me, share a story with you very quickly. When I started on the school board back in 2005, I took a tour of the schools of Peoria, and I very well remember one of our principals coming up to me and literally wagging his finger in my face and saying, "Young lady, I want you to remember one thing as you sit on this school board: one size fits one." And that has always stayed with me, and that's what we need to recognize, in my opinion, in education. But with that, I'm off my soapbox. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to remind you, this is just phase one. We'll take all the comments you've heard, or that we've heard, and we'll work on solutions. We'll work on recommendations. Maybe some will be recommendations on how the standards change and we work with them. Maybe some of them might go to the legislature. Some of the funding suggestions that you've made, that's where they have to go. I can't change that. And maybe some of it will just be to bring strategies back to you on how you can deal with some issues within your own district. I'd also like to thank Superintendent Jax for his hospitality today and getting to visit his schools and district. With that, I just want to thank you all for being here. Have a safe trip home, and God bless you. Thank you for coming.